There are towns you pass on the road that don't even earn a second glance, places so far removed from memory they barely exist. Hollow Creek was one of those towns. Buried deep within the Appalachian backroads, it wasn't even on most maps anymore. Still, out of some strange impulse, Mark Turner found himself pulling off the highway that evening, curiosity overpowering common sense. He was returning from a business trip, just looking for a place to stretch his legs when the battered wooden sign appeared. Welcome to Hollow Creek, established. 1887. It hung crooked, barely clinging to the rusted metal pole. Something about it unsettled him, but he smiled dryly. Why not? The sun was dipping behind the mountains as he drove in. A thin mist had begun to crawl from the dense forest, swallowing the cracked asphalt road until it felt like he was driving into a memory that had long since forgotten itself. The town emerged slowly, a cluster of derelict buildings and weathered homes with peeling paint and hollow windows that stared back at him. No lights, no movement. The silence was suffocating. Mark chuckled nervously. Is this even real? Still, something kept him moving forward. Parking near what might have once been a general store, Mark stepped out, his shoes crunching on gravel. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and something else he couldn't quite place. Old wood, maybe, or the faint trace of mildew. The store's windows were clouded with dust, but as Mark cupped his hands to peek inside, a sharp chill shot through him. God, it's like the whole place was just abandoned mid-step, he muttered. Shelves still held faded cans, and a child's tricycle sat tipped over in the corner. Hello? He called out, the sound unnervingly loud. No response. Mark glanced down the main street, lined with buildings that had names barely legible on their signs. Collins Pharmacy, Denton's Barbershop, Rose Theatre. Each seemed frozen in time, like the whole town had simply stopped breathing. A sick sense of curiosity gnawed at him. All right, one look around and I'm gone, he assured himself, his voice cracking slightly. As Mark moved past the theatre, he swore he saw movement inside. A shadow, maybe. His pulse quickened. Is someone there? He called, peering through the grime-covered glass. The theatre's double doors creaked open with a reluctant groan when he pushed, revealing rows of worn red seats facing a tattered screen. Dust danced like ghosts in the fading sunlight. Mark took a step inside, heart thudding. What the hell am I doing? He whispered, forcing a laugh. The laugh died quickly as he heard it. A faint whisper, soft and unintelligible. He froze. Hello? The whisper came again, closer this time. Mark spun around, his throat dry, but no one was there. Must be the wind. But there was no wind. Mark stumbled back outside, breathing hard. Okay, enough. I'm leaving. Yet, when he turned toward his car, his stomach dropped. It was gone. The street he walked down was no longer there. The general store, the signs, the gravel road, all gone. He stood in the middle of an unfamiliar intersection. 4 narrow streets stretched endlessly into the mist, each identical. No, no, no! This is impossible, Mark stammered, spinning around. Where the hell is my car? Panic clawed at his chest as he picked a direction and ran. The buildings repeated. The same pharmacy, the same barbershop, over and over. He ran until his legs burned, but he ended up where he started. Mark fell to his knees, gasping. This can't be happening. The whispers returned, closer now. Mark's head snapped up. Stop! Who's there? He screamed, his voice cracking. Laughter answered him, soft and childlike. He flinched, turning toward the sound. From the corner of his eye, he saw figures. pale faces staring from windows, watching. "Please," Mark begged, his voice trembling. He stumbled back into the pharmacy. The bell above the door jingled eerily. Inside, everything was pristine. Too pristine. Bottles lined perfectly, shelves dust-free. Mark backed away, but a soft voice behind him whispered, "We've been waiting for you." Mark turned sharply, but no one was there. "Waiting?" he breathed, feeling the cold sink deep into his bones. "For what?" he whispered back, unsure why he even asked. The town felt alive now, breathing around him, suffocating him. He ran, bursting out the back door of the pharmacy and into the alley. That's when he saw them. Dozens of figures, pale and silent, lining the rooftops and sidewalks. Their eyes were empty, but they smiled. "You're part of us now," a voice whispered in his ear. Mark screamed, turning wildly, but no one was close. A memory flashed, a news article his father once showed him as a kid. "Town disappears without a trace. Hollow Creek, 1953. He never believed it. Mark stumbled back, hyperventilating. "No! You're all dead. This isn't real." "Real enough," the voices echoed around him. "Stay. Stay with us." Their hands reached out, cold and dry. Mark ran, but the town shifted. Streets turned to alleys, alleys to walls. There was no way out. Mark collapsed, sobbing. "Why me? What do you want?" A woman appeared before him, her face kind, but impossibly pale. "You saw us. You remembered us. That's enough." She knelt down. "No one leaves Hollow Creek, Mark." The last thing he saw was her smile widening, her eyes black pits as the town swallowed him whole. And just like that, Hollow Creek returned to silence, waiting for the next traveler who dared to remember. But it wasn't over. Mark felt himself conscious, floating in darkness. The air was cold, damp, and the smell of earth filled his lungs. When his eyes adjusted, he realized he was no longer in the town. He was underground, trapped beneath layers of dirt and wood. Shaking, Mark clawed at the soft earth above him. Panic surged as his fingers brushed against something slick and cold. It was hair, human hair. He recoiled in horror, but the whisper came again, closer than ever. "They're all here, Mark. The others, like you." He turned his head and saw hollow eyes staring back at him from the dark, just inches from his face. "They tried to leave too," the voice hissed. "Now, they feed the town." Mark screamed, his voice muffled by the earth around him. Dozens of pale, decaying hands reached from the shadows, pulling him down, down into the wet soil. His last thoughts were of his father's voice, warning him long ago. But it was too late. Hollow Creek had him now, forever. I still don't know why we took that detour. Maybe it was the restless urge that comes with middle age, that lingering thought of seeing something you haven't seen before, even if just once. We were driving back from a weekend trip, the kind you take to escape the monotony, when Daniel spotted the old sign. Faded, barely readable, the words "Welcome to Ashcroft" peeked through rust and vines like a whisper from the past. It wasn't on any map we checked. That should have been the first warning. But instead, it intrigued us. A town forgotten, waiting to be rediscovered. "What do you think?" Daniel asked, half smirking. "Ever heard of it?" I shook my head, staring at that sign longer than necessary. "No." "Looks abandoned." "Exactly," he grinned. "Let's check it out." And just like that, we turned off the highway, tires crunching over gravel as the sun dipped lower. What harm could there be, we told ourselves? just a quick look. But as the trees thickened, swallowing the road, an unsettling silence grew heavier around us. It was like the air itself had stilled, waiting. Ashcroft was eerie. There's no better word for it. Rows of wooden houses, their paint peeled away by time, windows dark and hollow. We parked at what seemed to be the town square. A cracked fountain, dry for decades, stood at the centre. I stepped out first, my boots echoing unnervingly on the old pavement. Daniel followed, unusually quiet now. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. I strained my ears. Nothing. No birds, no wind, not even the distant hum of insects. Just nothing. The kind of silence that scratches at your sanity if you stand in it too long. We passed what must have once been a general store. Its front window was shattered, glass littering the steps like scattered diamonds. A faded sign still hung, swaying gently as if moved by a breeze that didn't exist. For a moment, I could swear I saw a figure in the reflection, a woman staring back at me. But when I turned, there was no one there. "This place is giving me the creeps," Daniel muttered, stuffing his hands in his jacket pockets. "Let's not stay too long." I agreed, but something kept pulling me deeper in. There was a church at the edge of town, its steeple leaning slightly like it was exhausted from holding secrets. The door groaned as I pushed it open, the smell of rot and dust assaulting my senses. Pews sat half broken, and the altar was bare except for a single melted candle. Daniel stayed by the door, shifting nervously. "Hurry up, man." I walked the aisle, heart pounding louder with every step. Something wasn't right here. And then I saw it. Words scratched into the wood near the altar, old and nearly faded. They never left. A chill ran down my spine. "Daniel, come look at this." "Nope, I'm done. We need to go." But as we turned to leave, we heard it. A laugh. High, brittle, and unmistakably human. It echoed through the church, freezing us in place. "You heard that, right?" Daniel's voice cracked, eyes wide. "Yeah," I whispered, feeling cold sweat trickle down my back. "We need to get the hell out of here." We bolted, stumbling out of the church into the pale light of the fading day. But the town had changed. The street we came from, it was gone. In its place was another row of houses we hadn't seen before, each one identical, with curtains drawn tight. This wasn't here before," Daniel stammered. I scanned the area, heart racing. "We took a wrong turn. We have to go back." But no matter how many times we circled, the way out was gone. It was like the town was shifting, trapping us. Every path led us back to the square, to that damned dry fountain. Then came the voices, soft at first, then louder, whispers from nowhere, calling our names. "Daniel! Ryan!" I spun around, breath hitching. "Who's there?" No answer, only laughter. Night fell fast, too fast. Darkness swallowed Ashcroft whole, leaving only the pale light of our phones. We didn't speak much. Words felt useless now. There was a house, slightly less ruined than the rest. We broke in, barricading the door behind us. Daniel sank to the floor, shaking. "What is this place?" I couldn't answer. My hands trembled as I slid down next to him. But the house wasn't safe. Footsteps creaked above us. Then, a knock at the door. "Don't open it," Daniel hissed. The knock came again, slower this time, and a voice, muffled but clear. "Let me in. I've been waiting." We held our breath, frozen in place. The doorknob rattled. Daniel screamed, and in a panic, We bolted upstairs, the old house groaning with every desperate step. Upstairs was worse. Every room was the same. Furniture draped in sheets, mirrors covered, windows nailed shut. Except one room. Its door was open, inviting. "Don't," Daniel whispered, but I was already stepping in. There, on the bed, sat a photograph, dusty, faded. It showed two men who looked exactly like us. Smiling, alive. I stumbled back, bile rising in my throat. "Daniel, look." He stared, then gagged. No, that's not possible." Before we could think, the door slammed shut. A cold breath washed over us, and the whispers returned, louder, clearer. "You came back. You belong here." The walls shook, plaster raining down. Daniel clawed at the door, screaming. I could only watch, paralyzed by the realization sinking in. This wasn't a detour, it was a trap. And we had walked right into it. There was no escape. The windows wouldn't budge, nailed shut from the outside. That's when we heard it again, that brittle female laugh. This time, it was close. Daniel dared to look through a crack in the wall. "Oh my God," he whispered, stumbling back. "She's outside, staring right at me." I crawled over and peered through. There she was, a pale woman in a torn dress, her head cocked unnaturally to one side. Her mouth was stretched wide, lips torn from the strain of her grin. She didn't blink. She just stared, humming a tune so low it made my teeth ache. "Ryan, she knows us," Daniel choked. "I swear to God, she knows us." We stayed in that room, afraid to move, until the humming stopped. Minutes or hours passed, I couldn't tell anymore. But then we heard it. The sound of dragging, something heavy scraping across the floor below us. What is that?" Daniel whimpered. The sound moved slowly, deliberately. It paused beneath us, the floorboards creaking under its weight. Then came the smell, rotting flesh, sweet and suffocating. The scent filled the room, making us gag. "Ryan, whatever it is, it's coming up." The stairs groaned under the unseen weight. One step, two, the dragging sound closer. I gripped Daniel's arm, heart hammering in my chest. Then a voice, guttural and wet. "Found you." The door burst open and cold air rushed in. We saw it just for a second, a figure, pale and twisted, its eyes black holes, its jaw unhinged unnaturally as it lunged. Daniel screamed and I grabbed whatever I could. An old chair, hurling it as we scrambled out through the window, glass slicing our skin. We hit the ground hard, rolling, breathless. The figure stood at the window, watching, smiling. We ran. We didn't care where, just away. Through the streets that shifted, past the fountain that bled dark water now, past the houses that groaned with laughter. I swear the trees watched us. We don't remember how we got out. Morning light hit our faces like a cruel joke, and we were back on the main road, our car parked where we left it. No Ashcroft in sight, just trees, endless trees. Neither of us spoke the entire drive home. There was nothing to say, but that night, as I showered, I noticed something, a mark carved into my skin, just above my ribs. 4 letters, ASHC. I screamed. Daniel came rushing in, pale as death. Me too," he whispered, lifting his shirt. The town may be gone, forgotten by the world, but not by us. And somehow, I know, it's waiting. I still wonder what would have happened if we hadn't taken that damn exit. It was supposed to be just another weekend trip. One of those random getaways you plan last minute to escape the suffocating routine of city life. David was driving, fiddling with the radio, while I, Rachel, sat staring out the window, half lost in thought. The highway stretched endlessly, cutting through miles of nothingness. It was somewhere past noon when we saw the rusted road sign. Eldermore, 12 miles. Neither of us had ever heard of it. It wasn't on the map, nor did the GPS recognize it. But something about that name. It had a strange pull. David chuckled. "Wanna check it out?" And before I could think twice, I nodded. The road narrowed quickly. The asphalt cracked and fading into gravel. Trees lined both sides, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal arms. There was an eerie beauty in how the sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting fleeting shadows on the path. As we drove deeper, a cold unease settled over me. "It feels like we're driving into the past," I whispered, half joking. David smirked, but even he gripped the steering wheel a little tighter. Neither of us could shake the feeling that we were being watched. The first sight of Eldermore was unsettling. Weathered wooden houses stood crooked, their paint long stripped away by time. Some windows were boarded, others left open, staring blankly like empty eye sockets. The whole place seemed frozen, as if time had abandoned it. There were no sounds, no birds, no wind, just an oppressive silence that made my skin crawl. David honked once, a loud, ugly sound against the stillness. Nothing, not a single soul. We parked near what looked like a town square. A faded sign creaked gently above an old general store. "It must be abandoned," David muttered, though his voice betrayed his uncertainty. The doors to the store swung slightly, inviting yet warning. As we stood there, a sudden sharp noise startled us, the screech of metal dragging on stone. We spun around, but there was nothing, just empty streets and decaying homes. My chest tightened, and a chill ran down my spine. "Maybe we should leave," I suggested, my voice trembling more than I intended. But curiosity, it has a way of sinking its claws in. We decided to look around, telling ourselves it would be quick. The general store was our first stop. The air inside was stale, thick with dust and the faintest scent of rot. Shelves lined with faded cans and broken glass jars told stories of a life long gone. A ledger sat open on the counter, the ink faded but legible. The last entry dated back to 1963. 63? David whispered, his brow furrowed. How the hell is this even possible? I moved toward a wall of old photographs, each image yellowed with age. Faces stared back, men, women, children. Some smiled, others wore grim expressions. But something was off. Their eyes. Almost every single person in those photos had the same blank, distant stare. "Do you see this?" I asked David, my voice barely audible. Before he could answer, the sound of footsteps echoed outside. We froze. "That wasn't the wind," I whispered. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. David peeked outside, then stiffened. "There's someone out there," he muttered. I joined him, peering through the grime-coated window. An old man stood by our car, his back turned to us. He wore tattered overalls, his posture unnaturally still. "Hello?" David called out, pushing the door open. The man didn't move. David tried again. Louder, slowly, the man turned. His face, it's hard to describe. His skin was pale, almost translucent, with veins crawling beneath like worms. His eyes were sunken, devoid of life, yet somehow he smiled. "You shouldn't be here," he croaked. The words felt rehearsed, as if he'd said them 1,000 times. David stammered, We just got lost. We didn't know." The man shook his head slowly. "No one comes here by accident." A heavy silence followed, suffocating. "You should leave, now, before it gets dark." We didn't need to be told twice. Grabbing each other, we hurried back to the car. David turned the key, but the engine sputtered, coughed, and died. "No, no, no," he growled, trying again. Same result. Panic set in. I could feel tears burning my eyes. "It's the car battery, right? It's just dead, right?" I babbled, trying to convince myself. David didn't answer. He kept trying, hands trembling. I glanced up and my blood ran cold. The old man was gone, just vanished. In his place, shadows began to stretch unnaturally from the corners of the buildings. Dark shapes, watching, waiting. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through my bones. David finally stopped trying. "We need to move, now." He grabbed my hand and we ran. But every street twisted back on itself. Every corner we turned spat us out in the same place. The town square. It was like the place was alive. "It won't let us leave," I gasped, the realization hitting like a punch. Exhausted, we collapsed against the fountain at the square's center. That's when I noticed it, a plaque, almost hidden beneath layers of grime. I wiped it clean. Eldermore founded 1894, abandoned after the tragedy of 63. My voice trembled. "What tragedy?" I asked the air. A gust of cold wind answered. From the corner of my eye, I saw a figure, a woman this time, standing silently by the store. Her neck was bent at an impossible angle, her mouth hanging open as if mid-scream. More figures emerged, children, women, men. Their faces were grotesque masks of agony. And then it hit me. This town, it wasn't abandoned. It was haunted by its own people, trapped in an endless loop of whatever horror had befallen them. "We shouldn't have come," I sobbed. David stood up, shaking. "We have to try one last time." He grabbed me, dragging me toward the car. This time, he didn't aim for the road. He gunned the engine, flooring the gas straight through the crumbling wooden fences. The car bounced, metal screamed, but somehow it worked. The shapes shrieked, a sound so inhuman it shattered the air. We burst out of the town, hitting the main road so hard we almost flipped. David didn't stop driving, not for miles, not until the sun was high again and the world seemed normal. Only then did we stop. We looked back. There was no road, no sign, no Eldermore. It was as if it had never existed. To this day, we don't talk about it, but sometimes, when the night is quiet, I swear I can hear them, whispering, waiting,